All right, welcome everybody. We are going to do some CSS animation. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a little header and we're going to put like our information out there. So we're going to go ahead and do CSS. And the first part, I'm going to do transitions. Transitions, there we go. That's a header one. And okay, by the way, I could leave it like this, but I tend to be slightly lazy. And I'm going to go ahead and for stuff for head, I like to just click. Where did that go? No. Okay, so I'm having a little bit of issue when I don't have my mouse, so bear with me while I go through this wackiness. Insert the most common viewport meta tag. Always the first thing I like to do. Okay, do we need any classes? No, not really. We don't need a preprocessor. I just added the meta, but I'm going to also on my pen setting go to CSS, and I'm going to add a little Bootstrap just because. Actually, maybe I should, yeah, we'll do Bootstrap. I'm most familiar with that one. Twitter Bootstrap. Okay, there you go. See, my text already has changed. CSS transitions. And then for JavaScript, we probably don't need it, but let's just go ahead and add that as well. You know what? I don't need jQuery. I don't need you, jQuery. I'm just going to leave it like this for now. Okay, so there we go. And let's just add a little paragraph here. And here are some sample animations using transitions. So of course we need to animate something. So what we're going to do is go ahead and create some divs that we can animate. Okay, in our section we have two divs with a class of row. If I collapse them, that's what they look like. And then I expand it. I have inside of each div with a class of row has an ID. Div 1, div 2, div 3, they're all unique. They all have the same class of colMD. Same thing goes for this one, and just as a reference, you can see the headers. Okay. So what we're going to do is, as we are animating it, you can kind of inspect the HTML and see what it's doing. Okay. Okay, so at this point, if you got all your HTML, and if you don't have all of it, you can kind of follow along, pause. I'm going to make sure I show the HTML on the left of the one we're going to do. So we're going to start by styling this div 1. And so I'm going to do the hashtag div1 and then add some styles here. So the first thing we're going to do is add a background color. We'll try 336699, one of my favorite colors. And let's just zoom this a little bit. Hover over me. And we have a background color. And then let's do... Actually, what I want to do, let me change that. I'm going to change that to H2, background color. And now I'm going to set the width. And let's set it to 95%. Margin. Let's see if I can do this. 2% auto. Oh, my divs are going to need a height as well. And so let me do this real quick. Totally forgot. I'm going to do this div 1, comma, div 2, comma, div 3, comma. I'm going to go to the next line, div 4, comma. See what's happening is you can see as they're like populating the color. Oops. I keep doing that. Div 5, div 6, and bam. Okay, I'm going to set the width and the height. Width 90%. Oh, I shouldn't do it. I should do it as, I don't know if I want to do pixels. Let's do height for sure. What does that look like? That's probably a little too high. Let's try a 300, 200. Okay, sorry I hemmed and hawed about that. I came to the conclusion that I can set the height, but I don't want to set the width because I'm using Bootstrap on here. So for all of my divs, from div 1 to div 6, I set the height at 100 px. Okay, so I did set the height. I'm going to let the width be automatic. And then I'm going to put div 1 h2. Actually, now that I think about it, all of the header 2s should probably all have the same width, height, and margin. The only thing that will be different will be the background color. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to cut that. Or I'm going to copy it, actually. And I'm going to paste. And then I'm going to get rid of the background color over here. All right. And then I got to make sure that after here I close that up. And now what I want to do is style this for all of the divs. So now I'm going to do a comma, hashtag div 2 h2, comma, and you see where I'm going here? Div 3 space h2, oops, h2, comma. And now we're giving them all these different sizes. So div 4 h2, div 5 h2, and div 6 h2. Okay, so what I want to do, like, I want to set certain styles. I want them just like for all of them. And if you take a look, there's a little bit more space here. Let's just scroll down a bit so you can see all of my CSS code, and then I'll pause there. You might want to pause the video and get caught up on all the stuff I just mentioned. Okay, we're just about ready to do a little bit of animation. And what I'm going to do is add a little bit of padding. Actually, I should do the padding on all of these. So I'm going to do a padding of 1 EM. And now, if you look at my end result, yikes, the text is not working right. I'm going to do a min height. There we go. Does that look okay? All right, let me do just a couple more, and then I think I'm ready to work on it. So we add a little bit of padding. I'm going to do the 1 EM for left and right and a 0.5 EM top and bottom. I rechanged that to be a minimum height of 90%. We could actually set it. We could actually set it as pixels. Sorry, and let's just take a look at what it's looking like now. A little bit better. I might change the font size a little bit smaller. 90%. Whoa. Okay, that's not a good idea. Let's try 1.5 EM. That works. Okay. You can fiddle around with some of these values and numbers. I like to have a little bit of padding around these. The other thing we could do is we could set min width, min height, but I think I'm just going to leave it like this. Okay. All right, let's do some animations. Now, in order to animate, what we're going to do is add what's called a transition. And one of the things you can do with the transition is you can apply it. So what we're going to do is we're going to do all of our, let's see, we're going to make all of our header 2s have the transitions, okay? So we don't know all the transitions. We're going to do it first. So I'm going to type all. And what a transition does is that if something changes about whatever, let's start by transition. Is it transition or transitions? Let me make sure it's singular, transition. If, for example, I did color, and then I do like 0.5 S, that would be if the color changes, change it, but transition over the period of ½ a second. Okay? So the example here might be background color, and then color of white. And then what I will do is have a transition of when I hover over that div. Okay, so if we choose what the transition is in the case of color, and we change the color property, it will animate. So what I'm going to do is check this out. I'm going to do div1 colon hover h2. So what we're saying is if we are hovering over div1, we're going to make a change to h2 color. We'll make it black. Okay, and I'm going to save my changes. And now when I hover, you'll see that it animates color. Okay, so in your transition, you choose transition. You choose what property you're going to animate. And color would just be color. It's the only thing you can change. Okay, if I were to change the font size, nothing would happen, right? Because I've already set the property at color. But thanks to the forward-thinking developers, if you do all, it means anything you change will be animated. Now let me go back to color because I just want to show you one other thing. I'm going to change the font size on here. And earlier I made it 1.5. I'm going to do it to 2em. I'm going to save my changes. I'm going to hover. And notice the animation takes half a second, but the jump in size is immediate. But if I change the transition to all and save my changes, now both the size and the color animate over half a second. So let's take a look at the CSS code we did. So what we did is we applied every header to, we added transition all 0.5 seconds. So any animation we do is going to be half a second. We can override this on individual ones if we want to. So the first thing we do is we apply all transitions to any of those header 2s and any of the divs, from div 1 to div 6. Transition all 0.5 second. Then div 1 h2, we set the background color and the color because I wanted this unique for this one div. And then what I did is when I'm hovering over the div, change the header 2. By doing that, it makes it a little nicer because the header 2 is what's getting changed. Okay. So that's the essence of transitions. Okay. So now the question is, what all can we transition? I just showed you how to do color. So what I want to do for the next half of this video, or however much time I have remaining, I want to focus on the different kinds of transitions we can do. So I already showed you how to transition color and font size. Okay. Now I'm going to get font size back. And I'm thinking of doing a background color change. And on the background color, I'm going to use a different color. Oops, I got to make sure I put the hashtag there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So now I'm going to save my changes. So now on, because I have transition all, right, and we have the div 1 h2 all the way through div 6 h2, all of these are going to be able to transition. I want to scroll up a little bit. I want to focus in on, we have a different background color and color. And when I hover, it changes. See that? Another thing I like to do in general, another thing you can do is you can copy all this code, Control C. And one thing I like to do is change, just like reverse the background color and the color. So when I hit save, and now it goes the opposite. See that? Okay. All right, that's our first transition. Next one, we're going to do a resize. So that's for our div 2, h2. And at this point, all we need to do is resize it, right? So I'm just going to do my hover effect on h2 because we've already set the size, right? So I'm going to change the width to 110%, the height 110%. Save my changes. Pretty boring. Let's also change the font size. 2em. What we may want to do is add a background color as well. So let's do that right now. Div2, h2. And now we're going to scroll down a little bit. There you go. Now when I resize, it looks a little bit weird. It's because the header 2 is resizing. Not my div itself. So the header 2 is sort of a little bit wacky, but hey, what do you know? Maybe I just get rid of the height. Let's see if that looks any better. Oh, it still does that resize effect because my font is changing, but it doesn't really matter. All right, save our changes here. Now remember, because transition was set to all, we get all of that. All right, on my next one, you can already hint that it's going to be a now you see me, now you don't. So we're going to hide it. So we're going to do a div 3 h2. And yeah. And we're going to do background color. I'm going to do an RGBA of 200, 200, 200, 1. See, nice and gray. And let's scroll that over a little bit. Up a little bit more. Now the RGBA is for red, green, blue, alpha. Alpha is the transparency. And what I like to do, you got a couple options here. Div 3 hover H2. One thing you can do to hide it is you could change the opacity to 0. And it just goes away. Now, the thing about the opacity to 0 is what that does is it just makes it disappear, but the height is still the same. So let me prove that to you by setting the height to something like 400 px. And notice how much higher that is. Now the size of it doesn't change. Let's do a margin bottom. Oh, it's because it's my div is getting in the way. Well, whatever. Okay. We can also change the height. Watch this. Height 0. And if it's kind of hard to see the height because the opacity changes anyway. But just believe me, you can change the height as well so that you can, if it's like pushing things out of the way and you want those to sort of collapse under it, you can do it that way. I personally prefer opacity. That's my favorite way to have things sort of appear or disappear. There's a property called visibility. I'm not a fan of that one. I'd rather change the opacity. That's just me. I don't know performance-wise which one is better. But got dizzy. Now it's going to get to some fun thing. What we're going to do now is we have our transition, but for the remaining ones, we're going to do a new property called transform. Transform. So we're going to transform some of these. And I think you're going to like these transform options. And there are plenty more. So we're going to do a div 4, hover, H2, and I'm just going to focus on this one. Transform, and we're going to do a rotate 360. I think I have to put DEG. I'm going to find out in just a moment, won't I? Save changes. Yeah. That's the degrees. Rotate 360 DEG. You want to, and by the way, notice it's rotating clockwise. We can give it a negative value, and it's counterclockwise. Now, one of the things you should note about this is you notice how it's spinning around the letter G. So it doesn't quite look like we've got, you know, the color spinning as well. So one of the things I recommend we do is go ahead above that, which we're going to do, and we can do it at any point, div for h2. Let's go ahead and set our background color. And we'll do the hashtag. Let's try an AAA. And now when it spins, what? You get that background image there. The other thing you can do, I think it's transition timing. Let's save that and see if that works. No. Okay, let me get that and I'll be right back. It's duration. Transition dash duration. And now you're not going to get very dizzy if you transition that far, but you might if it's like 2360 degrees. Yeah, that is getting really dizzy. So yeah, there you go. And give it a negative value to rotate the opposite direction. All right, something skewy this way comes. We definitely need a background for this one. Div 5, H2. I'm running out of colors here. Okay, so I've added a background color and a color for this one. And this is the something skewy this way comes. And we're going to do a skew. It's a transform. And I think it's like so. Yep. Okay, so skew, it's in degrees. The bigger the number, the more it skews. Give it a negative value, it skews in the opposite direction. I think you can give it two values. First one is horizontal, next one should be vertical. Let's see if that works. Yep. So skew, you can give it one value, you can give it two values. You can give it a positive degree, you can give it a negative degree. All right, you can make it really skewy. What? That's too skewy. But I said something skewy this way comes. Okay, that's skew. And I really like the let's play hide and seek. All right, we're ready for our final one. On my div 6 header 2, I've given it a background color and a color. And now we're gonna play hide and seek. When we hover over it, it's gonna go hide underneath one of the other items. So, div 6, hover, H2, and use translate. Oh, transform, translate. Translate. Now in translate, that means to move it to a new location. So the first one is left or right. Let's put negative 200 px, comma, negative 100 px, and hover. All right. Now let's see what it does there. Yeah, see what it does there. Yeah, hide and seek. Yeah. So it's moving when we hover it. Let's make it minus 400. Yeah, minus 500. And minus 200. Oops. Well, I mean, we could just have it go, translate it so far that it just sort of, you know, goes off the screen. Do like 500. And it goes off the screen. Okay, I'm going to change this up a little bit. I didn't make it go off the screen. I made it, I'm going to position this so it's right exactly where the hover me is. So I need to move it left by, we'll try 600. 650 maybe. 640 maybe. Perfect. Now this is probably not exactly what I want to do, but we'll try it on here. This probably won't work on all screen widths, so let's make it 115. Whoa. What just happened there? No. My mouse. It's not my mouse, it's me. Continental drift. I blame it. All right. It's going to poke up a little bit. What I wanted to do is go behind the part that says hover me. So in order to do that, we need to play around with z-index. But in order to do that, we need to change the position. So we're going to go all the way back up here where we're setting all of our header 2s. And we're going to do a position relative. Now, position relative doesn't really change anything except for z-index. We now can do this thing called z-index. We're going to give everything a z-index of 1. Doesn't change anything, right? Okay. But now we can change our z-index when we animate. We need to make sure everything has a position of relative. Sorry. All of our divs. Gosh, this is just driving me crazy. So all of our divs with the header 2s has a position of relative, a z-index of 1. Then on our final one, when we transform it, we're going to give it a z-index, and we're going to give it a lower number. So we're going to put -10 and save my changes. And now, let's zoom down a little bit. Let's see if we get this working. There it is. Look at that. So he's trying to hide, and it's just like typical little kids when they go to hide, they kind of like they poke out a little bit. So now it's kind of like behind there. So it's hide and seek. Let's play hide and see. I meant to write seek. There we go. Save. And there we have it. Our transforms. Transitions. The top 3 are all transitions. And then under it are all transforms. For more information, just Google CSS transforms and CSS transitions. You will find a wealth of knowledge out there. I hope you enjoyed this. Good luck with your animations. Stay tuned for more. In my next tutorial I post, I'm going to cover keyframe animations where we can make little animated shorts and things like that. We can literally take pictures of shorts and animate them. Or we can have animated short films, whatever you want to do. Stay tuned for that. Thank you so much for watching.